So 1.3 just dropped today for Armor Reforger, and if you're anything like me, you've already got your poop bucket set to the side of your seat so you don't have to leave your desk for the next 48 hours. All jokes aside, this is a massive update that brings mortars, armor to America, other vehicles, backblast damage for RPGs and rockets, a change to the ranking system and what it takes to use certain objects within the game, and some other more minor adjustments. Rather than making a full video on everything new right away, I figure I'm going to target the one thing that everybody's going to need to know how to do, and that is the mortars. So for my reference that I am going to use, I would highly recommend going to the field manual, going down to weapons, scrolling down to where you find mortars. I'm going to use this as a reference and read directly from it and put this into practice once I'm in game here. So I'm going to give you everything you need to know to at least get in there and start laying rounds somewhat near where you're trying to get, and then you'll learn from there. Alright, so in order to get the mortars, you first need to get a construction truck from a heavy vehicle supply depot. The construction truck can be found on the second page, and it's the last one here. Once you have your construction truck down, make sure you have supplies in it to begin with. This has 0 to start, so you need to back up to one of these signs and transfer the supplies from here into there, or you can pull it from command tent, other support structures, or you can pull supplies from the supply points along the map, which are not showed. So with your supplies loaded up, the next thing you're going to want to do is drive to where you want to set up these mortars. I'm setting up my mortars across the bay from Camarac, just because I can see the objectives, so I can be my own forward observer for now and make sure my shells are landing where they're supposed to be landing. Before I place the mortars, I'm going to read from the field manual and see if there's anything I need to be mindful of before I place them. So again, in the field manual, it's all the way down in weapons, scroll all the way down, in mortars. Alright, you guys ready for the introduction? Mortars. Mortars are the most common and readily available form of fire support. They can quickly deliver numerous explosive rounds with extensive fragmentation onto enemy positions, providing critical assistance in both defensive and offensive operations. As a result, understanding their use and the methods to counter them is essential knowledge to acquire. That's why I'm making this video first instead of making a video on everything else. The first thing to keep note of is to place the mortar on solid, even ground and prepare a supply of compatible ammunition nearby. Keeping a supply of ammunition nearby will take a lot of coordination between you and possibly another friend. If you need to prepare a supply of compatible ammunition nearby, you can always coordinate with somebody else on your team, or it's always better if you have a buddy that can just help you do this instead of having to try and convince somebody else to help you. Second thing here, note that in the conflict game mode, mortars can be set up through the construction interface and supplies are required to acquire the ammunition. So with that being said, just be mindful about the supplies that you're using, and you need to have supplies in order to build them and in order to fire them and have enough ammunition. This note here is probably what I'm going to help you guys the most with, and that's use map reading skills and mark its position on the map. So if we look down at this diagram here, this is where they want those shells to land. This is their position. They're using this to figure out the line and how far away that target is, but we'll get into that in a minute. Let's keep reading. Once asked to provide fire support by a friendly team, mark the target area on the map and use the protractor to calculate the azimuth and distance to it. Now, I do want to emphasize once asked, because in order to use mortars, you have to communicate with your team. If you're shelling an objective that friendlies are on, it's just not going to be good for anybody, and you're going to be hurting the team more than you're helping the team, even though you just want to go and shoot mortars. Alright, so back to this first part. Place the mortar on a solid, even ground and prepare a supply of compatible ammunition nearby. I'm going to go back and do that really quick, and then go back to this reference of the field manual and see what else I needs to know for here. So to place them, you come to the back of the construction truck and just hold on start building. You'll get this construction menu pop up. It should be all the way at the end in the last spot here. I'm going to orient them towards the objective that I already know I'm going towards. So I'm going to say just place it even here. Now with it placed, you just walk up and build it like anything else. So in this arsenal here that spawns with the mortars, you have the 81mm M821 fragmentation shell, you have illumination shells, you have smoke shells, and you have a training shell with no explosive ordnance. That's it for the shells. You also have your ballistic manual and the mortar box, the ammo box that carries the mortars. This will be really efficient and helpful for when you need to transport boxes of mortars back and forth, especially once you start running low on supplies. Having these filled up already is going to be a lifesaver. So with your ballistic manual out, you have to inspect it in order to flip the pages, but you can flip the pages for each shell type and all of the information on it. So 600 is 1496 with 4 rings. So with this here, you can also swap pages and it'll tell you per ring. So the maximum range for 1 ring is 900. Maximum range for 2 rings is 1600. Maximum range for 3 rings is 2300. Maximum range for 4 rings is 2900. And that's all for the fragmentation. So that's a way you can use this to read it and to figure out kind of where you're going to want to get set before you mount and aim with the mortar. So I'm going to go back to 1 ring because it's close, and 600 meters is about 1249. It'll be in flight for 18.8 seconds. Whatever DLF is, they'll be at 42. And time of flight per 100 meters is 0.2. Don't know what those last 2 mean. I think the first 3 are the most important. If you do know what the last 2 mean, please comment down below and let me know. And if it's actually important, I'll make a video on it. The average dispersion for this is about 14 meters, so you're not going to land exactly where you want it to land every time. It's going to land within a 14-meter circle. So if your shots don't land where you're aiming, don't get too critical about it, because that could just be the dispersion of the round. So in order to do this accurately and effectively, you need to know your exact location, and you also need to know the exact location of the point you're shooting at. So with this, I'm going to look here, and I'm somewhere around here. So I'm just going to put a custom marker here with an X for me so I know where my mortar position is. Do not do what I just did. Go back and watch my other video to find out how to find your exact location and do it that way. Don't just guesstimate and get it close, because that can really throw off when you're going longer range and further distances. Now with that there, my target is going to be Camerac. So I'm just going to place it right on this dirt road here and see how close I can get it to that. I'll just use another X with a different color and do that. So with my objective being here and me needing to shoot here, you're going to need the protractor. So with this inner triangle cut out, all of these marks on this ruler here are going to be 100 meters. So with that, it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. You can use this part to find the range from you to the target, and there's also a reference guide down here if you want to use that. But to do it diagonally like I'm doing here, I highly recommend just using the protractor. So it was using this bottom one as a gauge on the field manual. So what I'm going to do is that exact thing. I'm going to put my exact location in the crotch of this part of the protractor and try and rotate it as best I can to find Camerac here. So that right there is decent. It might take a little finagling to get used to this, because this is my first time doing it, and we're just learning together here. Now to draw a line from me to that area, I'm going to use that corner of the yellow house for reference. My azimuth reading is 120 for that. So what you can do is place it right on where you were looking, and then you draw a line from 120 through it and past it. That goes right through where I was looking, and I'm along this line here. So I know the line that I'm going to be shooting across, and that's going to be 120 degrees to my southeast. Now, I didn't go full in depth to find my exact position, but knowing your exact position is extremely huge for this actually working. Now, with that too, let's take another bearing and 120 is still the outside of that house. I'm going to aim for that house, actually. So again, let's set this where I am and angle it for that house. 600 meters exactly from my position is that house. So once you're mounted on the mortar, you have to aim to look into the sight here, and then you can adjust on the top with mils and degrees. This is a very basic, if you can see it, you can shoot at it situation. However, majority of the times you're not going to be able to see what you're shooting at, so you need to really be specific with your calculations and where you're going to be landing these rounds in order to effectively use the mortar. If you think you're just going to go out and build a mortar and just drop rounds effectively without a forward observer or spotter for that, you're probably not going to do that. Unless you're really good with this and you practice quite a bit, you're going to need assistance from teammates in order to effectively use the mortar. So we'll use this as specifically firing on an objective that you can see. So without a forward observer, you can go to where you see something, look at it, and adjust accordingly. Now with your degree set, you now need to figure out your elevation and the distance it is to that target. I've already found out that that is 600 meters exactly from my position, so I don't really need to do too much more there. On the left side, it has your degrees and your mils, and on the right side, it shows your range for where you're set and the type of round that you have. So with 4 rings, the degree that I'm at right now will take me to 1,800 meters, and that's way too far. So what I'm going to do instead is bring it down the rings. For me, it's V. Not sure what it is for controller. It doesn't even pop up and tell me, so good luck with that. But I'm going to keep going down the rings until it's within range of what I'm looking at. So right there, 1 ring, 1,124 mils is 600. So I'm going to adjust to 1,124. Right there, 1,124 dead nuts, and I'm going to count that as good. So this mortar is lined up and ready to drop on that yellow house over there. So with the mortar in place, the next thing you're going to want to do is approach your ammo box or the arsenal box over here. Grab whichever type of round you need, inspect it, and adjust the number of rings for the number that you need. So in my case, I need 1 ring on this round. Uh-oh. Okay, yeah, so picking it up just puts it in your hand. That's good to know. So with one ring, 600 meters, this smoke shell, you should be able to walk up here and fire. And 30 seconds later, we should be able to watch it smoke out that yellow house. And there's the smoke just behind the house. So when I was talking about finding your exact location, I'm assuming that the X on the map isn't quite as close as it should be. So my X on the map is a little bit off one way or the other. So I'm more right there. So with it landing 600 meters away, that would land behind that house. I'm going to adjust this and recalculate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 50, 60, 70. We'll do a 75. So 575. Let's readjust and see if that lands again. Now, when you adjust your rings, you don't need to readjust it when you pull it out again, unless you're changing to more or less rings. Let's see if 575 is a little bit more accurate to where I'm trying to land here. So 550 is 1,178. 50, let's do that. Now adjusting for specifics, once you're to a marker of 550, 500, or 600, what you want to do is look at the next number in the direction that you're trying to go. So since I'm trying to get closer, I'm looking at the 550 and the 500 meter range. So in order to hit 525, it would be the exact number in between 1,178 mils and 1,227 mils. So I'm actually going to adjust to 1,200 and see how that does me here. Fire mortar. Now let's see where this sucker lands. I'm hoping it lands right on the house because, you know, that would be nice. But landing your shots exactly where you want them to land is going to take some trial and error, and it's very rarely going to happen immediately. So if we look there, that round fell a little bit short. So what you can do is come back here again. And it landed short because I'm at yeah, I did overestimate what I expected. So let's go back to 1,190, and see if that works. Okay, so they're still landing short. I'm going to adjust and make another adjustment here. Let's try 188. And I would be a lot more accurate on my shots had I known my exact location, but I'm not going through all that because I'm just trying to get rounds close and range them in as I drop them. They all seem to be landing short, even though I've adjusted it 3 times. So we'll put it back to 600 again and see what's up with that, because it should be just over 550, but. What the fuck is going on here? Okay, yeah, hold on. This lands behind the goddamn house. I'm gonna be so pissed. Mother! Okay. We're getting close, though. We know it's in between where we just were. Let's do 1,150. Now that, I will take that. So now I'm going to go grab the fragmentation rounds and see what I can do in terms of damage. So 600, 1249. Cool. Aim. 600 is about 1249, so 49. And again, this is probably not going to land directly on that house. It's probably going to land a little bit past it because I didn't find my exact location. But let's send 3 shells real quick. So I'm just going to fire mortars as fast as possible here. Let's see what happens. Now let's see what happens here with 3 rounds in the air. They should be landing anytime. There's 1 landed behind the building. 2 also landed behind the building. So all of them are behind the building, and I didn't see anything happen. So let's adjust accordingly and bring it closer to us by going up in the amount of mils. Let's fire and just see where it lands. This is a ranging shot. You can fire a ranging shot to figure out if you're on target or not. And then once you know that you're on target due to your forward observer or from you seeing it land, you can then send a barrage of rounds to that exact range. So that one was short. Let's adjust a little bit further out. Back the other way. Let's do 1270. Now that one's getting closer, just a little bit further, and I should be good. We'll do 4 mils. Once I hit this house with 1, I'm going to send a barrage of 4. And, no, I'll send a barrage of 3 and see if I can take down that house. Sweet! Whoa! 1 round? Okay, so maybe the previous rounds I shot 2 counted some damage to that, because if 1 mortar takes down a building, that's going to be a problem. So with that building dropped, I'm going to call that mission accomplished. Now, I'm not the most experienced with indirect fire, but I'm obviously trying to learn as much as I can about it, and I do have some experience in squad and Hell Let Loose, so I kind of understand the basics. But I know some of you out there probably served in an indirect fire unit, and so you'll probably be able to know how to do this like a breeze. But either way, this is all useful for if you can see where your shots are landing. In order to communicate with a forward observer, it's going to take a little bit more trial and error, and it's going to take a little bit more of finding what you're actually looking at. What I would recommend is getting your forward observer to mark where he wants you to land the rounds on the map. So if I was the forward observer, I would have made this X, and you, as the mortar crew, would have made this X on your exact location. So while your forward observer is moving up to get eyes on the objective, you would be wanting to do everything you can to find out your exact location, and even this was a little bit off for me. And once your forward observer is set up, you should have your exact location found, and from there, you just do everything that I was talking about to get rounds where your forward observer is looking at, and he can call in the rounds and let you know if you need to adjust them left, right, further, closer, and whatnot. So being mindful of your elevation, on my X, this is new, but right there it says your coordinates and the elevation in which you're at. And you also want to make a note of where you're shooting. So thankfully, I'm within 5 meters of sea level. But if I were to shoot onto military site levee over here, military base levee, that would be 165 meters of elevation, or 160 meters of elevation that I would need to account for when I'm shooting these rounds. So you're going to be spending a lot of time in your map with a protractor, drawing lines and finding locations and all that if you want to use a mortar. Now, just because I want to make this a little bit harder on myself, I'm going to figure out how to account for the 165 meters of elevation when it comes to landing on military base levee. So I'm assuming this D elevation per 100 meters is what I'm going to use to find the elevation accountedness. I'm assuming this is where I'm going to have to find the elevation and adjust here. I'm just going to take a short intermission really quick. If my calculations are wrong with finding out the elevation difference and all that, please let me know in the comments. I didn't Google a single thing while trying to make this video. I was just trying to learn naturally like somebody else would if the only resource they had was this game. So I do have to kind of make sure that I'm right with things that I've said, but if I'm not right, you have full right to grill me in the comments and let me know that I am wrong. But either way, I hope you learned something. So I'm just going to throw it right back to the video and show you how to fire onto military base levee. So now I'm going to teach you how to fire on an objective that you can't see. Now ideally you have forward observers, but I don't have forward observers, so I'm just going to have to fly over there in GM and see if there are marks where the rounds landed. So in order to find military base levee, I would need to find the azimuth reading of it. Why am I leaning like that? What is going on here? All right, that was weird. So since I can't see military base levee, you're going to want to take your protractor, reset it so it's upright, place it directly on your location, and you're going to want to draw a line from where you're trying to land these rounds, or maybe even a little bit past it. So let's say just the big red house here. So I'm going to start there and draw it all the way through the center of where I place it on myself and out the back of the protractor. And that gives me an azimuth reading of 55, 56, 57, 58, in between 57 and 58. Now, to find the range of this, what you can do is take this take this triangle cutout, line it up along it, and count. So there it's 10 to this line, so that's 1,000 meters, 1,700. And then there's also a difference of 160 meters of elevation. Yeah, I'll take that 160 meters of elevation. So what we're going to do is pull out this field manual here. With one ring, I am out of range. So I would need to now add another ring. Okay, so I said 1,700. I'm just going to do 3 rings. I'm not exactly sure what the best ring type is, so I'm going to use the minimum amount of rings possible to reach the range in which I'm trying to reach. So at 1,700 meters and 17 mils per 100 meters of elevation. So quick math, 17 plus So in order to account for elevation, if you're not very good at math like myself, I highly recommend pulling out a calculator. So I'm at 160 meters of elevation difference between my position and levee. So it says 17 mils of adjustment per 100 meters. So 17 divided by 2 is 8.5 mils above 17. So 17 plus 8.5, I need to adjust 25.5 mils from 1700. So 1169. 1169 plus, what did I say? 25.5. That's 194.5. So again, to find the degree of military base levee, you would put the circle, the center of this protractor directly on your location, and watch where this line extends to. And right here when it breaks, 55, 6, 7, 8, we'll do 58 degrees northeast. So with that information, it's 58 degrees northeast. And how many mils? 1,194. And that was with 3 rings. Set it to 3 rings, and now I'm ready to range it in. So we'll do 3 rings at 1,194 mils at 58 degrees. And that fell a little bit short. That's really close, actually, for where I'm shooting from, all the way over here. So ideally, you have a forward observer tell you when your rounds fall short, so then you can aim and adjust for that. So I'm at 1193 mils. I'm going to go a little bit further than that, but not too far. So what you can do is you can overshoot and then kind of see where that falls, and then find a place in between where you overshot and where you landed short, and then range it in that way. But I'm just going to walk them closer and closer, and your forward observer will ask you to walk those rounds further so you can do them incrementally rather than trying to hit directly here after seeing it fell short. And so I gained about that much of distance, so let's try adding a little bit more space on that. 1174, let's go 1156. Alright, with that adjustment, I should be landing close, if not right on that red roofed house. Well, that was close. So I took down a tree. I know I can move a little bit left, tiny bit, and then adjust a little bit more range here. 58.1, let's go 58, 57, 57.9. And then also go down in mils to go up in distance. Let's see here. This should land. I'm hoping this one lands right on it. If not, I'm tripping. Oh, it just missed right here. Okay, so my range is close. I maybe went a little bit too far. I'm just going to try adjusting left and hitting that house from here. Let's do 57.5. That's where my first reading was, too. Should have just kept with it. Ain't no way that landed just behind it. Well, I hit the front gate. So my objective is to hit that house, and I went a little far. So let's just, let's reel it in right there. Hell yeah! Direct impact! So again, with dispersion and all that, they hit within this range. They're not going to be exactly on point. Plus, possibly this might adjust whenever you fire around. So let me take a peek at something really quick. 152. So yes, it does change your distance mils when you fire a round in it. So that just means you need to check your distance every time you fire a round. So make sure you communicate with your loader. that's basically everything you would need to know in order to get mortars up and operating and communicating where to shoot. I hope this video helped. This is the first video of 1.3 that I made because this is going to be the one thing most people have questions on, I can only assume. So keep in mind, coordinate with your teammates, have a forward observer if you can't see the objective, take your time ranging. If you need to do ranging shots, that's completely fine, but that will also let them know that you're trying to get them in range and drop shells on them. So, you know, try your best to get as close to where you want them to land first, and then adjust accordingly and rain hellfire. The next video I'm going to make is how to defend against mortars and what you can build on your objective to stop mortars from killing you as fast and as easily. So hardcover and things like that, just building up as much of a bunker of a base as possible is going to be extremely helpful when trying not to die from artillery. I hope you enjoyed today's video because I put a lot of work in editing this all together and trying to get it out as fast as I could for all you people that want to know how to use a mortar. If you liked the video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe for more of this type of content, and as I always say, if I can just teach one person something new, then I'm happy, and I think this video is going to teach a lot of people something new. But yeah, until the next one, peace!